to episode 10 of Mac Yak. So we're going to say hi to everybody. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Make sure everybody can hear us. Make sure everything's working good here. As you kind of now notice, we are not actually using group FaceTime right now because of one big problem, and we're going to jump into that one pretty much right away, is we're actually using Skype tonight. Ugh. I know Jay's like probably
just a little bit.
Yeah,
it's not a Windows product; it's a Microsoft product.
It's still
they bought it from eBay.
It's still close enough to Windows to be a Microsoft product.
Then again, I remember back in the day when Microsoft didn't own Skype, so
yeah, that's true. I remember back in the day too when they didn't own Hotmail, they didn't own a whole bunch of other things, So
yeah.
Yes, group FaceTime is still down. I checked it earlier, and it's the only service that Apple has down as of right now. So,
yeah,
there we go. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump into our first topic right away here. So let's go ahead and talk about this group FaceTime bug. One of the problems I think they had with it is that they should have found this a long time ago, to be honest with you. I'm one of the developer testers, one of the Appleseed. They call them Appleseed testers. Yeah, we're not rushing. But, yes, I saw that. So did everybody else there, Greg. One of the problems is I'm an Appleseed beta tester, so we get all the stuff way before the public betas even come out. So we should have caught this. However, guess what? We weren't allowed to do to actually test group FaceTime during the beta test. So therefore, we did not catch this bug. So we probably would have caught it way a long time ago had we been able to have access to it. But the way Facebook does the stuff, or not Facebook, I'm thinking Facebook because there's another issue. But, the way Apple's doing stuff now is that they're not letting us fully test stuff. In fact, one of the bigger problems with the beta testing is because I beta test not only iOS, but I also beta test Mac OS. We can't even use the two together. So remember when messages came out, we couldn't even use Macs to actually use messages to talk to iOS device because they won't let that happen either. So
right.
anyways,
it's funny because Apple no longer does any kind of quality control. They leave it on the end user, and then they don't give us every feature to test. And then fast forward a year, and people are getting eavesdropped on through FaceTime.
Yeah.
So how long was group FaceTime out for? A couple months, I guess, publicly?
Since
November.
Yeah. Well, we did our first group FaceTime.
From one of the stories that I read was that somebody, I guess this woman was making a claim that either her son or herself experienced this issue and wanted to bring it to Apple's attention, and she claims that she never heard anything back after she made the complaint. Now, who knows who she contacted or how she contacted her, how she submitted it or what, but thought that was interesting.
Yeah, if you just do the Genius bar, then you know nothing's going to happen.
Well, yeah, because those guys, genius is a relative term when you talk about the Genius bar. I'm sorry, but those guys are not geniuses.
Yeah.
Well, remember, Jay was a genius.
Well, and Jay had to step away from that because it made him dumber.
I lost more brain cells and skill on that job than any other before.
Oh, jeez.
So, anyways, guys, in the chat here, someone goes, let's see, Apple's fix. We were expecting to hopefully to have a fix by tonight, but apparently not. To be honest with you, I'm having a feeling we're going to be doing this next week.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Skype.
It's an issue. It's an epic bug. It's a
huge
privacy.
Yeah.
It's a huge
It's in
bug.
the spotlight, so Apple's going to jump on it. The thing is,
but I think they're going to take their time.
It's going to have to be a two-part fix. They're doing their part on the server end, but they're going to have to push an iOS and a macOS update as well. And
Yeah,
by the
because
time everybody installs
That's-
those, I don't know, might take a while.
well, I
That's-
haven't
Yeah.
even seen any betas come out yet for Appleseed. So
It's not going to be in there. They're going to push it out as a supplemental update or
it's
something.
going to have to be because, well, by the time, put it this way, the way the Appleseed testing works, by the time I started out, because I'm already testing the newest Mac OS, 10.14.4, I think it is now. Yeah, I'm not supposed to say any of that, but I can't tell you what's in it. I could tell you that I am actually testing it. That's
Gasp.
okay.
Safari
But-
is faster.
Well, I could test it too.
If you're a
Okay.
developer, yes. If you're in the
Yeah, I'm a
Appleseed program,
developer.
yeah, that's the only people that they actually let have it, because the developers, the reason why is because those guys need to test their apps and stuff against the newest OS to make sure that it's
Yep.
not breaking anything that they're putting out.
Did you just assume that every developer is a guy?
Well, they should.
Ooh.
By the way, Rocky, you said it affects all versions. It doesn't affect all versions. It affects
Well,
just group FaceTime.
Just group FaceTime, because
Yeah.
regular FaceTime,
I see what you're saying.
Regular
That's
FaceTime
good
still
thing
works.
To clarify, one-on-one does work, but all version, like he was asking, or she, Athlon was asking if it affected all versions.
It's
of
Noah.
And that's what I was meaning. I did it incorrectly, but thank you for correcting that.
but anyways, I think this is just a huge bug. But again, I mean, like Jay said, the quality control coming out of Apple today is just not there anymore. To be honest with you, being an Appleseed tester, I've posted so many bugs. There's one bug that I keep posting and posting and posting, and it seems to never get fixed, because every time they come out with a new Mac update, it always breaks again. They'll
What
fix
bug's
it.
that?
The one that I always report is when I used to have my MacBook Air, I used to have one of these little SD cards that I stuck in my SD card slot all the time. It was set flush, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, what would happen is if you put your computer to sleep, when you woke it back up, it would sit there and just start telling you SD card not ejected properly, blah, blah, blah. And in order for you to get it back, you had to pull the card out and push it back in. You couldn't just, because it would say it was ejected.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a pretty bad bug.
yeah, so I got tired of that, and I was like, look, it's hard to pull this thing out, because you had to, it's very hard to pull it out, because it had like a little bitty slot in there to pull out. It wasn't sticking out like a normal SD card. It was flush with the MacBook. So I that's just one of the things that frustrated me a lot, but I reported it, and they would always sit there and say, hey, here's the fix. Can you test it, make sure that it's fixed? I say, okay, yeah, it's fixed now. But as soon as a new beta came out, boom, it'd be broke again. I'm like, what are you guys doing over there? And-
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't think
Okay, thanks.
I don't think they're talking to each other inside of Apple. Okay, so somebody needs to tell Jack that yes, we see him, but everybody else is seeing him too. Because
Okay.
he's popping up on the screen there. But I don't think each section of Apple is talking to the other one. Like, for instance, the iOS group is probably not talking to the Mac OS group, and vice versa half the time. And I think they need to start working together a lot more if they want this stuff to work seamlessly.
Yeah, and I mean, this has been going on for a while, because I just looked it up to confirm the date on this. But I remember when macOS 10 Leopard came out, so that's 10.5, they delayed that because of the iPhone. So they clearly didn't have enough QA resources and such to focus on one product. And of course, the company has grown tremendously since then. But I think that, like you said, one team is not talking to the other, or there's not enough time to do these thorough tests that maybe they once had the ability to do. And I mean, it clearly shows in a feature like this, but who knows what else is going on that we're not noticing.
Well, Steve, here's the biggest problem, and like I said to Jay, I was an Appleseed beta tester. Even in the public beta tests, group FaceTime was not enabled until
Yeah.
the only time it was enabled was when we first got it as the public.
And that's a mistake. Yeah, they should have
Yeah.
had an internal, not an internal group, but you're part of the beta program. They should have had at least a limited test saying, all right, from this day, we're going to enable the service just for you. Here's the NDA restrictions on that. Go ahead and let us find out, what you.
Right.
Let us know what you find out.
Well, I think the biggest problem with that too is that getting a lot of people to do group FaceTime. For instance, you guys, I couldn't have done it with because unless well, except for Grudy.
Me too.
Yeah. So that's the only ones I could have done it with, but I couldn't have done 32.
No, yeah.
Even though we haven't done that yet, but still, it's one of those things,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, let's welcome our other guest star, Jack.
Put it on the big
Jack.
screen.
What's up, guys? Can you guys hear me okay? I just set this up.
Yep, we got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you sound
Just-
good. Yeah,
Alright, cool,
Jack
sweet.
has a special surprise that we'll be talking about later.
Yep.
So we invited him to be in the stream for tonight. And Jack, you're free to participate in any of the conversations we're having. So
Cool. Sounds great, man. Thanks
Unless
for having
you
me, guys.
disagree with me, that's not okay.
Then that's not.
Yeah. Don't disagree with Jay. That's all
Alright,
he
sounds
asks.
good.
All right. So, any other questions on this huge bug that came out? I mean, it came out what, Monday or Tuesday night? I can't remember. I know
I
that.
think it was Monday.
Well, I know
Wow.
that Rocky and I were actually group FaceTiming at one time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the same night that this happened. So we were already FaceTiming, and it might have happened right after you and I signed off with each other, but we were on the group FaceTime chatting. I mean, it wasn't like we were just chatting back and forth to each other. It was actually on the group. So
Yeah,
and then
I
all of a sudden,
wasn't part of the call, but I was eavesdropping.
yeah, exactly. But anyways, the way it's supposed to work, and here I'll bring up the web page here that we found on it. Let me see if I can bring it up on the screen here. But this is what came out. This is one of the links that Jay sent us. It says Apple's FaceTime privacy bug allowed possible spying. What it's doing is, as soon as you made a call, if the person did not answer on their phone or whatnot, if the other person that initiated the call swiped up and added his own phone number, it would actually activate the audio on the other person's phone or device, and it would still look like the call was still waiting to be answered, but yet everybody in the group could hear what they were saying.
yeah.
Now, the other problem with that is if the person that didn't want to answer the call, if he hit the power button, it would automatically, to shut the screen off, it would activate his camera. So then you could see everything he was doing. So
Yeah.
that made it even bigger bug.
Yeah.
That's how you do an epic bug right.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
nailed it.
I don't see how they didn't catch it sooner.
Well, and one of the things a lot of these people are talking about, they were talking about, how it works and then what are the dangers. To be honest with you, the biggest thing, a lot of people are saying disable FaceTime. Well, that's not the problem. Just don't, if you just don't answer at all, okay, or don't get in a group FaceTime, it's not, to me, it's not a big issue, to be honest with you. I'm not worried about you guys spying on me. You probably just
You should be.
hear me talking bad about you or something, but but anyways, that's pretty much what they're doing over there. I just wanted to show you guys the web page there that we had found some of the stuff on. So,
Yeah.
any other questions?
We hope to be back on FaceTime next week, but who knows? It's all
Yeah, you're
who
going
about
to see
knows
us
what's
bouncing
gonna happen
around
there.
next week.
Yeah.
Don't get used to this Skype stuff. I don't think we
Yeah,
like it very much.
don't get used to it.
There
Because
are.
I have to
can
I have
bounce.
to manually pull people in and out now, and I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that we have larger screens per person, but the fact that you have to sit there and kind of referee it all, that sucks.
Yeah, Daniel
that
goes,
really
I like
sucks.
this setup better, no bouncing around.
It's true.
And he goes,
The
"What
only nice
program?"
thing about this is the fact that those of us like me and Rocky that have older machines can actually use this on our computer versus having to use our portable device like our iPad or our iPhone. That's like about the only advantage I see to it. But can't have everything in life.
No, can't have your cake and
Yeah.
eat it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Ooh, cake. That sounds good. Maybe I should make some
That
cake.
does sound good.
Cake, yeah. Yeah, I could go for some cake.
Let's see. Daniel also said, "What program is this? This is Skype is what we're using right now. We debated on several different things to use. I think Google Hangouts, and we all said no for that.
I
was a
didn't
big
have a
no.
vote in that one, but
Well, you didn't have a vote
we
in what we were
talked
using on
about
this
Zoom,
either.
and there were a few other suggestions, but Skype was the easiest. We all had an account, so
Yeah. Well, I guess my next topic's already up. I guess I screwed that up already. But anyways, we'll go ahead and if no other questions about this topic, I mean, we can go on to our next one. One of the things we saw on Facebook, I think it was Greg. I think was it you that saw it about what is vintage and what is someone was asking why does Apple not support vintage machines anymore? And the simple answer is, does a car company support a car once it becomes classic or vintage? No. No company supports anything.
Well, it's iffy on cars.
yeah,
No,
that's not a good
Like
analogy.
Ford.
You can still get secondary parts, but see, that's the problem with Apple, though, is they don't allow secondary part makers to make stuff for their computers. So that's where the analogy actually kind of
Unless they're officially licensed, like OWC has a contract with Apple and stuff.
sorry.
But that's a little different.
That is a little different than, but Mike, you should understand this. But cars, you can go get parts from just about anywheres, and there's a lot of companies out there that make secondary parts, or for cars.
But also like what Greg was saying is like cars really aren't a good analogy because I can go to a GM dealer and buy something for a 30-year-old GM.
Yeah.
There's still support there for the vehicle. Yeah, granted they're not under warranty, but you can still go buy a built 350 from GM today for a car that was made in 1968.
Well, I understand a part, okay, like a belt or something, but can you buy an engine?
Yeah.
30 years ago?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
A rebuilt one probably, but not a brand new one.
Well, crate motors.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. But truthfully, a lot of the parts that you get from Apple are probably going to be refurbished anyway.
Probably. And that's not a problem either. I mean, I think they should support it for a while, but to be honest with you, something like, this MacBook that's sitting right back here behind me, I don't think, they're going to support something like that. I mean, that's an 11-year-old computer. Do you think something 11
Are
years
you
old
installing
still be
Windows onto that GT?
Yes. Well, here the problem. See, here's the thing with a computer company, especially. I mean, Apple in particular. Apple not only has to support the hardware, but they also have to support the software. So they're in a different position than, like, let's say, HP, where HP only has to support the hardware, where Microsoft has to support the software. So they kind of get off the hook in some ways. But the problem is, and the reason that Apple, I mean, it wouldn't be feasible for them to keep supporting machines that are over 5 or 6 years old. I mean, it would just be insane.
I see.
Yes. In a mainstream, and for mainstream users, mainstream people aren't going to want to use a computer that's 10 years old. It's like only the craziest of us are going to use a computer that was made in 1988 to try to get on the internet just because
because we can.
We all have inner child issues.
Crackheads, It's just, so I mean, I can understand them saying, okay, well, this machine's now going to be vintage because it's X years old. It can't, and this is by Apple's philosophy. It can't run anything like like take my Mac Pro. Okay, I'm using a Mac Pro 1.1. Okay, in 2018, this thing came out in 2006, and it can't run anything higher than OS 10.7 normally. So, okay, so why? Okay, we're not going to support this machine.
Well, here,
mainstream person's not going to want this machine, so it's junk.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, here's a good analogy here. Microsoft, for instance, uses Windows. We'll use this as an example. Microsoft only supports Windows for 10 years from the day they release it to the market to the day they stop putting out security updates. After 5 years, it goes into extended release and extended support. And extended support, that's when they stop developing features for Windows. And they only provide security updates and major fixes. And then after that, after 10 years, for instance, Windows 7 dies next year in 2020 in January. Yeah, sorry. I know. But
I like Windows 7.
Microsoft does that because they don't want to have to keep developing security updates and stuff for older operating systems and software that they just don't really care about anymore or are not making their money now. And that's the same basic idea for Apple. You know, they stop selling a Mac and they'll support it, help with the customers for 5 years, and then it goes into vintage. And then you can, I think, pay for some support, and there's some parts and stuff. Huh?
Only in California.
Okay, only in California. But they might also provide you some parts and stuff, but you've got to pay for that. And it's not making them money anymore, so why support it? And then after 7 years, it's out the door.
But here's the reason why I could see that you have a smaller window of time for computers versus cars, okay? Because cars can, like one of the guys in the chat said, you can still drive a 72 Rivera on the highway, but try using a 386 or an LC on the internet. It's the same. The reason behind that is because technology on computers goes much faster than technology in a car. Okay, even though you do have a lot more electronics and stuff in a car, but the same basic principle is that you have four wheels, you have a steering wheel, an engine, a brake, a gas pedal. Everything's pretty much the same. But you get computers. Okay, the processors from 10 years ago are way much slower than what we have today. Okay, so you can't really compare the two, I understand, because if you look at what they have back then, and if you try to continue software support for that old hardware, you're just adding more and more stuff onto the operating system, and it's going to be like Windows, where it's slow and bloated and everything else. To me, to be honest with you, I'd rather have Apple stop supporting something a lot sooner and have it streamlined where it actually runs good versus being bloated like Windows.
Yeah,
I see that point, but in the going back to kind of analyzing the two analogies along there, actually cars did have that period. You can't drive a 1919, Model T or whatever it was, on a highway now. They had their period where they had that fast growth, and then they got to the point where the cars were more where they stabilized, quote unquote. We are now at that precipice in computers where we have stabilized. So
I agree with that.
Yeah, and I could, so
but try to put a G5 in the category now, because to be honest with you, G5 in today's age, and I proved that you can still use it. However, I would rather use my 2017.
Yeah, but if the software still supports it, it could be used effectively.
But think about like Mike's 1.1 Pro. That's still very usable today. He uses it every day. I'm currently talking to you on my 2008 MacBook, even though it's been highly upgraded. It's still a MacBook from almost 10 years ago, and we have gotten to the point where computers that were made, PC, for instance, about 2006 on, you can use it on modern web with no problem. Macs, probably a good sum of them from mid 2007 on. You can still use in modern day everything tasks. Some of the 2006 Macs you could even use. I run 64-bit Windows on my 2.1 Mac Mini and stuff. It works great. Even the 32-bit Windows on the 1.1 works great. You can still run modern operating systems on them and still have a good experience. But I think what we're trying to get at is Apple, there's no money in it for them to continue supporting the devices. They're getting too old. We, as advanced users, can extend the lives of these systems a lot longer than Apple's willing to support them. But as a business standpoint, Apple just not supporting them, it's business.
Exactly. I agree with you on that.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them not supporting it. But here's where I have a problem. Apple, unlike other companies, and Apple didn't used to do this as much, they just tell us what will work with an OS. I mean, obviously, if we can go in there and it can be patched and it can function on that machine, obviously there was no reason for Apple to just completely force drop it and say, no, we're not going to let you install it on that, and that we have to work around. And that's where I personally have a problem with it, and I'm sure a lot of other people do, is that Apple, instead of just saying this isn't supported, they just completely lock you out from being able to.
This also reminds me of another thing. With the El Capitan, I remember up until I think it was 11.4 came out, a lot of USB issues. My eyesight camera wasn't working on my 5.2 MacBook and stuff. And at the end of El Capitan, when Sierra came out, they lopped off a bunch of Macs. Those Macs use a different USB controller, including my 5.2 MacBook, and they lopped them off probably because of that and a few other things. Driver support, they're getting more and more Macs out there that they have to support this operating system on, okay? And to make everything just work, they keep getting this big pile of drivers that they have to keep adding to, and it bloats everything out.
Yeah, but compare macOS to Windows. I mean, we have to keep track of 24 drivers. Windows has 5,000 built in.
Well, maybe more than that. I wouldn't even begin to. Well,
but with Windows,
you have to
right? Download now. It's not included usually. They use the basic drivers, and then it downloads from the internet.
Yeah.
So there's no bloat there. Where
that's the
Mac
reason why
OS
it takes 2 days
there
to install Windows versus about 2 hours to install OS X.
Yeah. So that's probably why, because the bloat and stuff, and it slowed down any system really. So that's why we have people like Colin making the patchers. Sure, these systems can still run that operating system. Sure, Apple cut the support for it, but it may not run as well on these systems, even though it does tend to. And we can add those drivers back in, but Apple doesn't care about them anymore, and it helps them streamline it for newer Macs.
Well, and that's the thing is in order for them to come out with newer technologies, they've got to drop older stuff. Okay.
Yep.
And we got into this kind of last week a little bit about the stuff that Apple got rid of that was useful.
Here's a good one.
Huh?
When El Capitan came out, they dropped floppy drive support, even USB floppy drive. Before that, they all had floppy drive support.
Yeah.
What? No, I still can plug a floppy into.
I think it's write support. I think you could read it, but maybe it's write support. So it's something I recall something like that.
The last time I plugged a USB floppy into an El Capitan or later system, it didn't even recognize. Where with the Yosemite, I was writing floppies.
Could that be because you're using a patcher version?
No. It was even a big deal for some odd reason. Oh, Apple dropped floppy support in El Capitan.
Yeah, people find something to complain about, and they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although zip disks do still work.
I think what actually the issue is, and someone in the channel or the chat could correct me if I'm wrong. I think what they dropped was, and it affected floppy disk drives. They dropped support for, I think, HFS volumes, like writing HFS volumes, writing 2 volumes rather. So like only the old like System 7 type stuff or whatever was being the issue. It's something vague like that, but yeah, it's a very weird issue. It's
And
like,
you
why would
also
they?
gotta remember that Apple has dropped support for other things like USB dial-up modems and stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
Someone
they
in the
dropped
chat,
that. I think Lion or Mountain Lion.
So
Yeah,
you
which
got
is funny 'cause they
Matthew
used to
in the
sell their
chat,
own.
He's saying
Yeah, exactly.
floppy drive works fine on Mojave.
Oh, okay.
Ah, cool.
Does
That's
it?
interesting. Maybe they added it back in.
I should test that out.
Well, if it wasn't Jay, wasn't you testing that out at your friend's house?
What?
You weren't using floppies though. You were using all CDs, right?
CDs, DVDs, old hard drives, yeah.
Okay. I think it was Rocky that was doing the floppy stuff. So.
Looks like he's going to get his. So.
Yeah. Looking
Prove
for
us
my,
wrong, buddy.
My whole issue with the vintage is I mostly run into it in the Facebook groups. In low-end Mac or some of the groups that have the word vintage in their name, people show up, say, I don't know if this qualifies as vintage, but I have this. And yes, it's vintage. You show up with a G4, it's vintage. Compared to the SE30 of the guy commenting, it's
That's
not
obsolete.
vintage at all.
No, that's antique.
Well,
Yeah, that's why
Apple
I
has
just go by-
two different
That's why
ways
I
they
don't-
classify. They
Apple's
classify
definition.
vintage and then obsolete. Obsolete means they will not support it all. Vintage still
Right.
means they actually support it with updates and everything. Because, for instance, I think my 2012 is considered vintage, but
it still supports
supported.
Mojave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. However, when it's labeled as obsolete, I think that's after 7 years. It's actually listed as obsolete, which means that no support whatsoever for it anymore.
Yeah, from Apple's standpoint, vintage, and it's funny. I've seen it. I've seen coworkers do this at the bar. Someone shows up, and it's a white MacBook, for example, or whatever happened to become vintage at the time. Open it up, take out the battery, check the serial number, and a big banner shows up in the system that says vintage. And I've seen people literally drop the battery and say, "Oh, we can't touch this." Like they go to the extreme point, like it's retarded. But Apple cannot help you with anything vintage in any way, shape, or form. Because if we touch something vintage, even if all we do is press the space bar, and your hard drive crashes, we owe you a brand new system. They're not going to risk it. So if it's vintage, we don't touch it.
Jay,
Period.
there's a question in there for you, actually. Athlon said, this is a little unrelated, but would you guys recommend buying an Xserve in 2019?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll touch on that in
Well,
a
it's
second.
still useful.
But
It's still useful.
if you have a vintage product, you can still go to third-party Apple-authorized repair centers. They might still have the parts, and they have the freedom from Apple to still help you out.
Yeah,
An
and I
Apple
think
Store won't do it. Apple Care won't do it, but a third party will.
Yeah, I think if you live in the state of California, there's a sort of extended by a few years of the vintage versus obsolete. Like if you read the fine print on some of the support articles, at least that's the way it used to be. And then I think you do have access to parts because of some law in California, I believe, for a longer period of time. But yeah, if you don't live in that state, you're sort of out of luck.
Yeah.
I live next to it.
But yeah, to simplify things, I always go by Apple's definition.
Yeah.
It's older than 5 years. Like my Mac Pro is now vintage. It's more powerful than most of the newer Macs out there, but it's vintage. So, you know.
Yeah, other than my mid 2012 MacBook Pro, which will still have support for another 3 years, I think. All of my Macs are vintage or obsolete now. So
Yeah, I think it's, the people get touchy with the wording because it's their perspectives and not necessarily talking about, of course, Apple's designation of one term versus the other. I mean, people call things retro or vintage or antique or obsolete, but I mean,
Yeah.
to me, an Intel machine is not really vintage at this point, unless it's like a 2006 model. But I mean, that's because some of us are used to using old machines and can make them last longer and do what we want to do with them. And
Yeah,
you know,
it's the same for stuff like I know this is a little off topic, but low end Mac. Like, does this classify as low end Mac? Well, what is it? It's a 2018 MacBook Air. Yes, that's low end. It's a piece of garbage.
Well, to Jay it is.
That's awesome.
But for other people, it's more than enough, and it's the highest end they could possibly get. And that's all perspective. The whole low end thing is purely perspective. But when it comes to vintage and obsolete, I think if we all just stick to Apple's classification, whether we like it or not, it would make the world a better place.
I agree with you. I totally agree.
I totally agree.
That works. I'll agree.
All right. I think we've beat that one in, but we could get to our next topic here. And let me see. Let me make sure it's pulling up. How useful or useless is Siri? I would say
why don't we ask Greg
25
about how useful that is?
Yeah, I would say 25% useful, 75% useless.
I agree.
Hey,
Let's drop the rest of the subject because there's no point in talking about it.
Didn't we skip one or two highlights there?
Yes, we did, but we're not going in that order.
Jay, I don't know why you put it out that way. That was yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk later about that.
So, Greg, would you like to speak about your one-on-one relationship with Siri?
What's our nickname for you?
Since you're the one that likes to use it, I don't think any of us really use it.
I actually do use it.
I only use Siri.
I use it as well.
Voice to text, and to see what the weather is outside without having to open the app, basically.
I use it pretty much when my hands are full, like I'm tinkering with something. I'll use it on the watch more than I use it on the phone. But the problem is usually the 99% chance that I'm using it on the watch is to say, "Where's my phone?"
I have it disabled. I have Siri disabled on my watch because I got tired of when I said, "Hey Siri." Oh, no, shut up. She's actually answered. Whenever I say that, the watch would pick it up, but I wanted the phone to pick it up, so I turned it off on the watch. Complete the watch. I've had the original watch, the first edition or whatever they call that.
Okay.
Series
So
I
Series Zero.
I disabled that, but what I did is I have the Series 3, so I have the raise to talk. So I don't, hold down the button. I just raise it and speak to it. And it's usually pretty accurate, but like I'll ask it where my phone is, and the connection between the watch and the phone will be so weak. It'll be like, "Oh, hold on a second." And by the time it responds, I find where the heck I put it. So
yeah. Well, that's the reason why I have this little thing on the watch. If you look at it, it says the little phone that shakes. If you hit that button, guess what?
I did not know that.
You did not know
You
that?
didn't know that?
No.
Yeah.
That's one of the most useful features.
Yeah.
Now,
I use that all the time.
Oh, that's what that icon does. I've been asking Siri this whole time.
Or whatever, and now she's dumber than a box of rocks and goes, "I don't understand what never mind is. I don't understand what you mean." I'm like,
well, I find it funny because I have an Alexa plugged into a set of speakers. I got it for free, and then I have a Google whatever the heck it's called that I also got for free from a Spotify promotion a year or so ago. And so I have both of them plugged in, and it's funny asking them different things because the Google one is usually pretty good. The Alexa one, unless it's like one of its core functionalities, has no idea what you're talking about. And then Siri is sort of a mixed bag between them. So it's funny having a battle of the AI there and trying to see what they want to do and how they respond.
Siri is still better than Cortana, though.
I would agree with that.
I haven't used that one, so I can't comment on it.
Well, I have Cortana disabled in my boot camp Windows 10 because it's a piece of garbage. It's worse than Siri. However, what I use Siri for mostly, I'll sit there and say, "Hey Siri, what time is it?" And okay, that works. Okay, I'll sit there and say, set a timer, other things like that. I'll say, "Call my wife," at work or whatever. stuff like that, and that works. But the other day I tried to set myself an appointment. I said, the Siri word. I don't want to say it because she'll go off again. Um, Set an appointment. Well, I was fully expecting for her to ask me, okay, what do you want the appointment for? All she did was say, okay, what time and what date. So I gave time and date. So basically, what does she do? She puts a thing in my calendar, says appointment, the time and date. And I'm sitting there like, so I got to go back in and edit out and say what the appointment's actually for,
I have a good one. Yeah, I once asked for her to take a note for me. I was like, hey, can you take a note for me? And it said, sure. It wrote in my notes, me.
Nice. That's awesome.
I think, if some of us remember using voice control, which was sort of the very limited predecessor to Siri that Apple had on their phones. But I just looked it up, and Siri in 2011, I mean, yeah, they had a good head start on Amazon and Google and this whole boom of all these smart speaker things, but I think it still does have a bit of a ways to go.
Oh, she was great for a long time, and then they screwed her up about a year.
Well, I
like
think the biggest problem is a lot of it is the voice recognition, because I'll sit there. My wife has got a Texan accent, okay? So Siri, she swears Siri hates her because she'll ask Siri something and won't understand a word, or if she tries to do text to speech or speech to text, it won't be exactly what she said. For me, it works okay, but there's certain words that it doesn't pick up very well, and I got to go back and edit it out through text. And I was like, well, shit, I should have just wrote this.
Yeah. Well, it's like with me, I have a West Virginian Southern twang.
Yeah.
It picks up about 75% of the words I say now. Back in its early days, it picked up maybe one every 10 words. I mean,
wow,
it's bad. Yeah.
The problem with you, Greg, is that you still hit send, even though Siri massacres your text. We get
notes until afterwards.
We actually have a nickname that we can't say on here for Greg because of that. And he kept trying to use Siri, and it kept saying the same thing.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to use Siri for is just to make awkward conversation in elevators. I'll often just go, "Hey Siri, what's this rash?" And then I just watch the people get really uncomfortable next to me. It's a blast.
There's some good YouTube videos of people doing that stuff where they sit there and say that in front of while they're walking in front of people. And
oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I also, anytime anybody gets on an elevator with me, I ask them if they want to talk about Bitcoin, and never do I hear people just shut up as quick as.
Oh, one of these guys.
Yeah.
Well,
here,
I'll tell you.
I knew this topic was coming up in the stream, so I tried Siri a little bit more often over the last week just to see how it was. I tried to set a timer for my eggs, and it did a web search. I tried to send a text to my wife. I'm sorry, I don't know who your wife is. So I made the connection, saved it, set it all up, sent the text to my wife, and it called my dad.
That's what you wanted.
How's
right?
he doing?
It's like, what's the temperature outside? I'm sorry, I don't know where you are. And I set the location service. It knows where I am. So, yeah, it's a disaster, and I just don't use it anymore.
Like I said, I use it for just certain little small things, but for as much as it's supposed to be able to do, like I said, 25% is useful. The other 75% is garbage. For me, that's my percentages. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like a 50-50 shot. Whenever I ask it, sometimes not.
Well, here, I can demonstrate the only good thing that Siri is good for. Hey, Siri. What's 0 divided by 0?
Imagine that you have 0 cookies, and you split them evenly among 0 friends. How many cookies does each person get? It doesn't make sense.
I like the old
friends.
I need a hot coffee.
Well, remember, there was
My
one-
brother and I were having a battle one night. He has a or no, not a Google Home. That other one, the Amazon Alexa, and he said what's 0 divided by 0, and it just came back with this technical definition of it's undefined because it's impossible. So just for the hell of it, I said, hey Siri, what's 0 divided by 0, and she comes off with this long spiel. And it was the funniest damn thing I ever heard in my life.
Well, you guys remember when
That is the only thing I find that Siri is useful for.
remember the time when Siri actually you would ask Siri, where can I hide a body?
I was about to say that, yeah.
And it came up with a list of places.
Oh my god!
They took that out though.
Now,
Yeah, they
I
took it.
Yeah,
bet.
it's not
See, I was already in
politically
Jersey, so it just told me to go to the turnpike. So
Mm.
And if you
Oh,
call
God.
Siri a curse word, she
her response
gets
is really
offended.
I like the story of when they were first developing it, and Steve Jobs ripped the demo phone out of whoever's hand inside of the Apple headquarters and said, "Hey Siri, are you a man and a woman or a woman?" And it had like some snappy comeback. Oh, sorry.
You said
You said it.
so. It goes, animals and French nouns have genders. I do not. That's what it's. That's the answer.
Hey, at least it
But,
understood me.
What about you, Jack? What's your experience?
I work IT for a healthcare company. We give all of our nurses iPhones, and the nurses really like it because they're not very computer savvy. They're not super tech savvy, so it helps them, send text messages and call up Google Maps and that kind of stuff. So
I think those people are more forgiving to that technology.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Let me read some of the message automatically held for review. What was that about? Okay, I guess I'll let Greg figure that one out.
Greg.
No, I'm reading some of the comments here, seeing if we got any comments about.
I like
phone.
the driving comment.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh,
It's
Apple
scary
might-
to think
Yeah,
that
it
Apple
would be
might be using
horrifying.
Siri
can
virtual
you imagine
assistant
using
technology
Siri
in
when you're
autonomous
driving
vehicle?
an autonomous vehicle? Though, I mean,
Hey Siri,
bad as she
turn
is
left.
now.
Next thing you know, you're turning right into the river.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, remember the Apple Maps issue where somebody drove.
Oh yeah.
I
It
forget where
wasn't
was.
just somebody; it was multiple people.
Yeah, but there was the biggest story where they drove and they died. They died because they drove. I think it's because they either drove off a cliff or drove somewhere. I can't remember the story, but if you're stupid enough to follow directions off a cliff, then sorry, but you don't need to be even following directions.
Yeah.
Just like that
Yeah,
episode of The
used to be
Office
a-
where they
a
drive
great,
into the lake.
Darwin
a really
Award
nice
right there.
commercial By Allstate. You know that guy. He plays a disaster for the Allstate
Oh,
commercial.
mayhem!
Oh yeah,
Oh,
mayhem.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. And they had one with the GPS messing up, and he drove
That's
through
funny.
a hedge and all kinds of stuff.
Calculating.
He went haywire.
Turn
That's
left.
what I think Siri would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we're gonna go to our next topic here. I think we've pretty much stomped all over Siri. She's probably pissed at us now. So.
Yeah.
Somebody going to Alexa and
Probably pissed now.
for some, comfort now.
Well, yeah, she probably is asking Alexa. They're making fun of me.
Here's some grief counselors.
That's what Siri would say.
Oh gosh.
Oh, all right. So, this is something interesting here that came up the other day. I get a lot of articles from ZDNet that they come up with about. I get an email like once a day from different articles and stuff. Well, this one guy came up with this thing saying that his battery wore out in the first 18 months. My iPhone's battery wore out in less than 18 months. Let me pull up the web page for everybody so you can actually see it. But this is what he said right here. He says, shortly after taking ownership of his iPhone 8 Plus, which is the same exact phone I have, by the way, and I've owned that same phone from day one when they first came out. He began to speculate that the battery may not last much more than about a year and a half. And he says, turns out he was right. Well, there's a couple of problems I had with this article because one, he pulled up his battery health. Okay, first off, he says his phone restarted because of an unexpected shutdown because it didn't have enough power to actually run the phone. But if you look at the picture here, he was at 14% when he did this screenshot. So his phone was already down on power to begin with. Okay. The second thing was he took and plugged it into his Mac with coconut battery, and he says it's designed to retain up to 80% of its original capacity at 500 complete cycles. This is from Apple. Okay, 500 complete cycles. That's the Apple view on it, and then beyond that, the battery is considered worn and headed towards end of life. However, when he brought up the Coconut Battery Plus app, he had 426 complete cycle charges on the battery. Okay, his design capacity was at 86.7%. It's almost at the 500% where Apple said that it's going to be about 80%. So pretty much Apple was spot on when they said, 500 cycles, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But the way this guy's acting is he's acting like, but see, this is 18 months. So I've had my phone since day one, which I think was September of 2017. Yeah, 2017. Yep. I had only 100. I put mine on there, and I only had 180 complete cycles. Not even quite 200 yet. Okay. My battery right now, and I haven't charged it today, is at 93%. Okay. So, to be honest with you, I'm not a heavy iPhone user. This guy has been using his phone every day, I would say heavy, very heavy use.
Yes.
Which, to be honest with you, batteries are not designed to last very long with that much heavy usage. The more usage you put on a battery, the quicker it's going to degrade.
Yep.
I don't think a lot of people understand that, to be honest with you. So what do you guys think?
Well, I just think that when you pay $1,000 for something, it's supposed to last longer than average. But that is not fair to the technology inside a battery.
No.
A battery is not magically going to get better because it's Apple and they overcharge us for it. Like, I'm at 130 cycles, and I only lost 0.1% of my original capacity. And my battery is pretty heavily used ever since we started using group FaceTime.
Yeah. This was more of a bigger issue.
Pull your mic away a little bit.
In the earlier iPhones up to probably at least the 3G. When the 3GS came out, the battery was pretty decent. And then around the 6 and 6S, they started having issues again. Bad issues. Really, really bad issues. And then they seem to fix it again. It's like I have a 6S. This is my second 6S. My first one had a little incident with the whole front end of it ended up missing.
How did that? Okay, that's another story we're gonna have to ask later on.
Yeah. That's questionable content right there.
Well, I'll just come out and say it. I got mad enough to throw the thing because it died on me again because the battery died again. And the 6S has had this big issue, especially the early models, and mine was one of the first ones, where they would just randomly die for no apparent reason, even with a good battery. And mine happened to be one of the affected recall ones, and I ended up breaking it about a month before they did the recall on it to replace the batteries for those specific models. And then the next year they did the battery replacement program,
which cost them $8 billion.
Yeah, I could have got a battery for that phone.
Well, they're blaming. That's what Tim Cook is blaming their profit losses because of the battery replacements and people using their stuff longer, which means greener, if you ask me. But
the batteries in these, I don't know what. They must have had a bad batch for like at least a year and a half, and they'll just they do die really quickly. This one I got, I think it was refurbished actually, about 2 years ago now, and the battery was brand new when I got it, And I'm not a super heavy iPhone user. I use up the whole battery in about a day, charge it and then use it up again, like an average person would. But this battery got so bad that even though it was at 85% of its life, according to the health thing, it started doing those random shutoffs again, and I had to get the battery replaced. But it doesn't affect all iPhones. I think some 8s did have battery issues. He may have just been really unlucky, but I'd say he was just.
Well, actually, my 8 was one of those that had a battery issue. It was within the group. Me and my wife actually brought it to the Apple Store, had them replaced under the Battery Replacement Act, or whatever they did. Why do I hear a lot of background noise? Oh.
Yeah, I think it is.
And I also guarantee you that clown that wrote the article has never even thought about calibrating his battery.
Probably not.
That too.
But my point of the whole article is he proved Apple's point about the 500 cycle thing, because he was close to it and he was just above the 80% mark. So Apple wasn't lying to him. Apple told him, hey, at 500 cycles, you should expect about 80% battery.
Yeah.
That's why I disagreed with the article, because the guy had no clue what he was talking about as far as batteries go. The problem is that I came up, okay, I'm a ham radio operator. I used to use nickel cadmium batteries. I don't know if a lot of you millennials probably have never even heard of them. But those were notorious for having way bad memories, okay? If you took those batteries and you used it for 5 minutes and then you plugged it back into the charger, the next time you used it, it would only last 5 minutes, okay, because it retained a memory. So you had to basically do a calibration on it like about 20 times just to get it back to normal. You had to run it all the way down, charge it all the way back up, run it all the way down. I mean, that you had to do serious calibrations on. Then came out with nickel metal hydride batteries. Those were a lot better because guess what? They didn't have a memory effect. However, they had bigger problems. They would degrade a lot faster because they would heat up during the recharge cycle, and if you didn't have the correct charger for them, the heat would destroy the chemicals in the battery, and the batteries just would not last at all. I mean, they would put it to you this way: the battery curve, or the voltage curve on it, would go from here and it would just go down. I mean, you would shut off. You wouldn't even get a warning that it was gonna go. That's how quick that those did. Now, when they came out with the lithium-ion batteries, those basically got rid of a lot of problems with both of those type of batteries: the memory problems and the longevity problems. You actually could use it for a longer time. However, as Jay found out, you do have to calibrate them every once in a while to get the software to actually sync up with what the battery is telling it. Okay, so you have to do that every once in a while. I don't recommend doing it like every day.
Apple used to actually have a pretty good support article about that on their website back when the iPods were like the only things they had were rechargeable batteries, and their PowerBooks, of course, and their iBooks. But I think it was something like every 60 to 90 days or every month or other month or something. And they actually had a thing, and I probably still had it on my PowerBook. It was an iCal reminder, and you could download a reminder for your iCal app on your Mac to remind you when to discharge your battery.
Interesting.
Yeah, I link to that old article in my article I recently did, and it still has the calendar reminder and all this stuff on.
Nice.
Brock goes, Tim Cook broke group FaceTime, so he didn't have to appear tonight.
Makes sense.
But as far as batteries go, I mean, here's something that I found as a solution sometimes, and I haven't had to use it because my battery's been great on my iPhone 8 Plus. All right. This is a battery case for the iPhone, and it uses a lightning connector. It actually has the regular lightning connector. No chin.
That's cool.
No chin like the Morphe battery cases have. You know, where it had
and they always use those stupid micro USBs.
Yeah. So, no, this one actually uses a lightning connector. So you use your same lightning cable. But it's not that thick either. I mean, that's how thick it is. I mean, and it's really good. The only problem with this one is guess what? I can't use it on wireless chargers. That's
Yeah,
the only
well.
difference. You know. Is Rocky back? No. Let's see who
No.
I'll pull down here. But
I'm
anyways,
back. I'm just only on voice.
that's just a sample of what a heavy user should be using. If you're a heavy iPhone user, get an extra battery pack, or I even have, in fact, I think I have one here. It's a battery, external battery pack. It's one of these. Okay, this actually has two different charger ports, USB ports. One's for the iPad and one's for the iPhone because it's different, charge rates for each
Right,
one.
right.
But this thing actually charges my phone twice. That's how much battery power is in
Impressive.
this thing. I mean, carry one of those around. I mean, I hate to say it, but in this day and age, you got to have some kind of extra power supply, because it doesn't matter what you have. Android, it could be anything. The smartphones today are sucking batteries down right and left, and to be honest with you, it doesn't matter what you use.
I would say this isn't an Apple limited problem. This is any smartphone.
Exactly.
It's more powerful. The thing is, they're getting more and more powerful, and the batteries are getting smaller and smaller, and that's what people want. And then they're complaining that, well, my battery doesn't last. Well, did you want a bigger phone that weighs, a half a pound, or did you want a phone that weighs 16 ounces?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off.
I would go for half a pound. I don't care.
Well, here's the thing with the
I used to use the
iPhone.
Dynatak 6000 for crying out loud. That thing weighed about 8 pounds. So, I mean.
Well, remember the second generation iPhone 20 gig was this thick.
Yeah, it was real thick.
Well, because it had a real hard drive in it.
It was extremely heavy too. I had a friend in high school punch me in the leg when I had one of those in my pocket. He almost broke his hand.
Here's my case about the iPhone. If you see the camera bump here, why do they have a camera bump? They could use that extra space, make it
I never
flush.
could figure that one out. It's so stupid.
Yeah, make
I
it
hate
flush.
it.
You add more battery to it.
Yeah.
It's it's physics.
My approach to the whole battery life thing is, who cares, man? Just your phone runs out of battery. Go read a book. Go get some fresh air. Build a treehouse with your kid. Put the damn phone down, and
don't be a
do
phone
something.
zombie. Don't be a phone zombie and just sit there.
I'm going to say, if you're burning your phone off, if you're burning your battery away that much in a day, I think you're probably going to end up dying at 30 of radiation poisoning to begin with.
Well, yeah, I think we're all going to be doing
You're going
that.
to need bifocals by the time you're 25 because all you do is stare at a screen all day.
Well, that's one of the reasons why my eyes are bad, because I stared at screens, up until I would turn 40. When I turned 40, my eyes got bad, and I had to start wearing glasses. I had 20/20 vision up until then, but I still stare at computer screens.
It's okay.
Huh?
It's called old age. It happens.
Yeah, but you guys are a lot younger than me wearing glasses, see?
Well, you realize that everyone in this chat is wearing glasses.
I understand that, but
Except Mike.
No, Mike is.
Yeah, Mike
I've
is.
had glasses
you
on
are?
since I was 5 years old.
Sorry. My
We
brain
can see
farted.
tomorrow's
I'm
headline.
40
I
years
didn't
old.
start
I'm
wearing
getting ready to go to bifocals.
But I didn't start wearing glasses until I turned 40. When I turned 40, I got my first pair of glasses.
Yeah. Now, I just want to throw this out there about the batteries on the phones and stuff. If I recall correct, I believe it was Apple that released whatever it's called, about how to maintain the battery in the iPhones and other phones. And their thing about these lithium ions was don't let it get down below about 50-60%, then charge it up to just above like 95%, and keep it hovering in that zone throughout the day. And they were mentioning, you shouldn't have it charge up to 100% overnight and all this stuff. And maybe it wasn't Apple that actually did the article or whatever it was about it, but
no, it wasn't Apple, because
No.
to be honest with you, that article, whoever wrote it was wrong.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because lithium-ion batteries, okay, keeping it in that zone. First off, all modern electronics that use lithium-ion batteries today have cut-off circuits. So as soon as they reach the max percentage, and it might say 100% on your device, but the battery is actually not actually at 100%. Okay, because they have circuits that cut it off. They're just saying it's at 100%, but it's not technically.
Right.
Okay. Also, when it gets down to 0%, your battery's not actually at 0% either, because the same circuitry is lying to you too. It's telling you that it's at 0%, but guess what? It still has a slight bit of charge, because you don't want to run it completely down, because a completely dead battery is just as bad as a completely full battery.
Yep.
Actually, a totally dead lithium-ion battery will pretty much kill it.
Yes.
Yeah.
They just die at that point. So
Yeah,
that's why even when your phone does shut itself off or runs out of battery power and you try to turn it on, it'll still try to turn on because there's enough power in there to try to boot it, but because you can't run a lithium ion. Well, you can run a lithium ion battery totally flat, but it's definitely not good. It's just like any other battery.
Well, but like I said though, today's electronics don't allow you to actually run it down to that percentage. Now, you can run it down to what it says 0% on there, but then if you put it in storage for like a year, it's going to lose that last little bit of charge, and then it's never going to work again.
Yep.
I have 3 batteries for this MacBook 2008 that prove that point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I have a lot of old phones in drawers that, man, I wish I could turn them on.
well, can you still plug them in?
Batteries are
Will they
dead.
still accept a? They won't even
No.
turn on there.
They're so dead. Just that battery bit it, and they just won't. They won't come
I
on
miss
without
back
a
in the
charge.
days when, for instance, dock connector still had the FireWire charge pin on them. And you
Yes.
could power any device up, even if the battery was completely flat, as long as it was plugged in. You can't do that with USB.
Yeah, Todd has a question there. He goes, "Why does his iPhone 6S hover at 100% for 20 minutes, then drops from 20% to 10% in only 5 minutes?"
Todd, that's literally the thing I was talking about with the 6S. Some batteries are just really bad. They just randomly start dying. You need a new battery, and once you get that, it works great. I mean, this thing's got a brand new Apple battery in it. I did it while they were still doing the battery program, which ended in December. Even now, without the battery program, I think it's only $69 or something like that. It's not that much.
I'm gonna say that $69 is actually pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
I
So
hate to
just
say
get
that
it
about something
replaced.
like Apple.
I guarantee you, if you get it replaced, you won't have that problem again, at least for at least a year, maybe a little longer. So
Yeah, I agree with Greg on that one, because that right there, one of the things about batteries, and like I said, a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions, especially consumers. Now, I've used, like I said, I've used all different type of batteries, but the heavier you use a battery, the quicker it degrades. It's plain common sense there. If you're a light user of the battery, it'll last a lot longer.
yeah, but the 6S was a whole different story.
Well, no,
It
that
just,
was a bad battery batch. That I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
that's completely different, and that happens. There's bad batteries made out there. I mean, hell, you get some of these Chinese batteries that they just completely suck.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Look at the-
Todd's asking,
look at
did
the
I
Galaxy
replace
Note.
my battery? No, I actually had Apple replace mine. I've done it before, and it's not that hard to do, but it's sometimes just as easy to just have Apple do it, and then you're getting a good quality battery out of it too.
Yeah.
Because
And,
some places just have crappy batteries.
I have to step away for a minute, but one more thing I want to say about this. Batteries can be expensive, but they are consumable items. Batteries eventually die. You might be able to stretch it with calibrations and little dances and praying to whatever religion you got, but eventually batteries die.
Well,
So I just lost 6 batteries in the last 24 hours due to a power spike. I lost 6 heavy-duty battery backup batteries, and that was not fun to order new ones.
Yeah.
That cost me about $300, but they're
Yeah, those
consumable items
Well,
to protect the more expensive stuff down the line. So I'm complaining, but it's
Yeah.
Well,
to be
that
expected.
brings me to another topic in this same discussion is battery replacements. I mean, iPhones should be able to replace batteries. However, I disagree with some people saying that you should be able to take the battery cover off, plop a new battery in. I think they should make it to where you can actually replace the battery by pulling a little cable out, not gluing the battery in, because they don't need to glue the damn thing in, to be honest with you.
No.
But iFixit has a little thing on there on how to do it. I mean, they put this
Oh, yeah.
glue on there, and
Yep.
it's just that's the hardest part to get out is the glue.
Yeah, and the problem with the glue, I think that actually causes a lot of the issues of people replacing it themselves because they try and pry the battery up and they might puncture the. Yeah, exactly.
Oof.
So
I've
I
done
mean,
that
yeah.
before, too.
I don't know why. Maybe Apple's so innovative. Can they just figure out a non-glue solution or something?
Well, they don't
That's
really need
not-
glue at all. It fits perfect in there. It's not going to rattle around or anything.
Well, I know for a fact my 5S, it rattled. You could hear
Yeah,
it rattle.
but they
I
can make
actually
it to
had
where it
replace
won't
the
rattle.
battery.
Is what I'm saying. They
Glue.
can put something in the battery
Yeah, they
compartment.
could put
Yeah.
similar to how, because I just took one apart, similar to how the MacBook Pro, I think the 2010 or 2011 models have the hard
Those
drive
little
sort of
bumper
the screw
things?
in with the bumpers. Yeah, they could
Yeah,
do like a foam
yeah.
bumper or something. I mean,
Yeah.
could
What
do that.
if they just Legoed it in there?
that's a good solution.
Yeah.
Or if you're Greg Recke, you could just use Q-tips.
No,
Yeah,
that's
that was
Jay.
Jay.
That's Jay.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're just Jay, you could use Q-tips. Or you could just be like me and just wad up a bunch of paper and just shove it in there,
Well,
Yeah, isn't that
But
how
hey,
your
I'm
hard
not
drives
judging how
hold
we
it?
are. I'm not saying about how we hold our hard drives in our computers or anything,
but to be honest with you, sometimes those solutions work really well. So
Hey, my computer's still working.
And there's James even goes, as a former RC car racer, I can confirm heavy usage can kill batteries quicker. Yes, and that's what I try to tell people, James, is that the more you use the phone, especially the more you run it down to almost 0% every time, it's gonna run that battery down a lot faster. The more small charges you put on a lithium-ion battery, the better. Believe it or not, the smaller charges actually work better for lithium-ion than anything else.
Yeah, and I know, like how we're talking about how it's consumable and stuff. I invested $79 into the newer tech battery that's in this late 2008 MacBook Unibody. I don't think I'll have to worry about it for 10 years, at least, probably, because the old battery lasted about 10 years. And the newer tech batteries tend to be better than the OEMs. So
I actually
it's
did the
worth it.
same thing. I ordered the same battery, and mine just started getting pretty low. And I'm gonna look up when I ordered that because I did replace that. It was like a new old stock from OWC, and I'm curious when I actually ordered that battery. I'll get back to you. But it's been over 5 years, so
I've been running a one in my 5,2, my 7,1 MacBook. The only newer tech battery that I had actually fell on me was I literally bought the very last G4 titanium battery they ever sold. I bought it, and then the page said this is no longer available.
Wow.
Okay. And that one failed about 6 months after. About a year after I got it. It only charges up to about 40% now.
So it's a
Isn't
crappy battery to
Neurotech a
begin
side
with.
brand of OWC?
Yeah.
I rest my case.
Well, newer
Well,
tech
now-
I think started out as a different company. But OWC absorbed them in the 90s or something. And newer tech was known for their CPU upgrades and stuff back in the day too.
Oh, yeah, they used to be
they've
good.
been
And
around,
the same goes for my thermostat. The Nest used to be awesome, and then Google bought them out, and now it all went to crap.
Hey, I like my
Now
Nest.
it's
I like
spying
my
on
Nest
you.
3, man.
I like my Nest.
Well,
haven't
hey,
had
just
problems with
talking
mine.
about you guys are talking about old batteries. Now, I got this old PowerBook G4 here, and I got two original batteries for them. They both last over 2 hours.
Nice.
You know,
My
so
PowerBook
and I
G4 dies when I look at it sideways.
and the same thing with my MacBook. My MacBook still running on the original battery from 2008, and I still get a good hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how hard I use it. Which I do use it pretty hard. You know, but I also keep it charged up too.
Yep.
So.
Do you remember when those PowerBook G4 batteries would like expand and get all spongy, and then you would get like super dangerous looking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those
Okay,
those
I found.
good.
I've
I
had a
found the
few of those.
receipt. I
Oh,
paid $69 for a new tech 58-watt MacBook Pro 15-inch battery. It was a new open box model. That was September 5th, 2014. So right now it's probably doesn't even last a full hour, but hey, that's not bad. $70.
So
All right. I think we've kind of beat this one down in the ground. What do you guys think?
yeah.
All right. Last topic for tonight before we start getting in our highlights and our classic corner here. Today, actually, this came out today, and I'll pull up the topic here, is Facebook got spanked by Apple today. Apparently, Apple found out that Facebook was using the, what do they call it? The
Enterprise apps.
certificates
Yeah.
to spy on people. In other words,
That's
they were
a no-no.
paying people $20 to download this app. And let me pull up the website
They
here.
paid them $20 a month for it.
Yeah, to spy on them, and they were in order to bypass because they were doing this through the App Store, and then Apple stopped letting them put the apps on the App Store.
I actually don't think they actually weren't putting it on the App Store because they knew Apple was going to stop them.
Well,
That's why they were doing the certificates.
Yeah, so they tried to bypass it, and what this does, what a enterprise certificate allows them to do is they can sideload the application and bypass the App Store completely. Is what this certificate does. So basically, they use it internally. It's supposed to be used internally by Facebook to test the iOS apps before they put them out for the general public. So according to this website here, they got caught paying people to let them spy on their phones. Apple revoked their certificates, killing all Facebook internal iOS apps, but their Android apps are still alive, which I'll be surprised if Google doesn't do something like that soon. But Google's
Yeah.
known to be spying on everybody already, so I don't think
True.
they care.
I wonder what repercussions this is going to have for just your regular developer who is playing, playing right by Apple, doing all this stuff. Are there going to be additional restrictions on this stuff because of, Facebook being a bunch of dummies? I don't know.
Who knows?
All right. All right. It should be coming back, hopefully.
Okay, yeah, it's
All right.
back up.
All right, we're back, guys. Sorry, but my broadcast software decided to crash on me all of a sudden. That's the first time that's happened on this. Let me go back to this. All right, so we're on the right one now. Before we crashed, yeah, that was unusual. No, stream's back up, but anyways, Facebook, I think one of the biggest things that's going to come out of this is that Facebook is going to be looked at a whole lot different than what they were before, to be honest with you. And I think a lot of other companies are going to be like stepping back and go, whoa, we're not going to do this, So what do you guys think?
You mean they might actually be exposed for the data miners that they are?
Well, true.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know
ahead.
I don't know what this is going to mean, because what basically happened is Apple just cut their certificates off for their internal apps, so you can't sign it, you can't activate it on the iPhone anymore, or iOS device.
Well, it also cuts out whatever apps they have will not work at all. That's the problem.
Well, no, their main app still works.
No.
And
Their
they're
I
still
main
on the
app.
okay, I
store.
want to clarify something here. Hold on, I want to clarify something about the enterprise license that they have, and I'm sure our guest can attest to this being in the healthcare industry because I've been there and we had them as well. A big part of the enterprise license is that they are able to have their own homegrown apps that they use. Like they could have a cafeteria monitoring app, an app
Yep.
about doing whatever. They're custom apps for their own in-company use. They don't release them publicly. They can't release them publicly. So it does more than just screw up their development process. It jacks up any internal processes that they had built around these specific apps. Maybe it was their ticketing system or their lunch card system or don't jump out the window because we're not in China system.
And I understand that, and that's perfectly fine. But the problem was they were using that same enterprise license for all those things illegally. They were actually
Exactly.
outside
Yeah.
of their terms of service by.
I just wanted to
outside.
clarify the full,
Yeah.
the full breadth of what actually got, how bad the spanking is from Apple because it shut them down.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
think
so
it's shut
at my
completely
company,
down,
we
but-
use Apple DEP, which is the Deployment Enterprise Program. So our end users don't even get access to the App Store. We have a custom app store that they can install apps that we approve, and it's always apps that we have business agreements with the actual companies that they don't retain information, share information, that all information is stored on our servers. So those and we had one of those certificates break, and it's a nightmare trying to reinstall certificates on 600 phones that won't phone home anymore.
Ooh, yeah, it would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, DEP is fun.
but I can understand Apple's point is that Facebook basically misused the license because as soon as they started giving it to consumers, okay, that's where they screwed up at. I mean, doing something like what Jack just said, about the using an intercompany and stuff like that. That's probably within the terms of service of the license. But when you start paying other people outside of Facebook to do that,
Yep.
Yeah, you can have your own DEP set up, which is device enrollment program for those who don't know, and you can run your own profile manager server and push out whatever you want to whatever device you want, but you're still bound by certain limits and things you cannot do. And Facebook being Facebook, of course, they find loopholes wherever they can to scoop up whatever data they can, and they got caught. And it should be an interesting next week because I know they're all on the phone right now, not FaceTime, but they're all on the phone.
Well, they've probably been on the
trying
phone
to
all
fix it.
day with Apple. I mean, they've probably been on conference call after conference call after conference call. But to be honest with you, this is probably one of the good things that Apple does. I mean, they do a lot of bad things, but they do some good things as well. Our privacy with Apple, I feel that my stuff is more secure on an Apple device than I would on any other device, to be honest with you. Unless you're using Facebook or Google or anything like that on your phone, then you're giving up privacy. But as far as Apple on their side, like for instance, iMessage is encrypted point to point. They don't even have the keys, so they can't even, say what, when we're using FaceTime, they can't even get eavesdrop, because it's encrypted.
Well.
Normally.
FaceTime is end-to-end encrypted as well, but because of this bug,
Well, the bug because you're actually talking to somebody that's in the group, but somebody outside of that group can't eavesdrop. That's the whole point. Is what I was trying to make.
Right.
But in Apple's history of not, giving in to law enforcement to crack open an iPhone, to me that puts trust in. That's why I put trust in Apple because.
Yeah, I agree. Same for me. And it's not that I do not trust Facebook or Google because they are Facebook or Google. They have a long track record of abusing customer information. Apple has not done such thing yet.
pull your mic away a little bit, Greg. You're breathing hard into it.
Sorry.
He's really excited, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I'm back in the day. BlackBerry. This was a thing when Blackberries were around. BlackBerry was known for their security on their devices, and that's what BlackBerry was all about. That's why businesses eat them up. Well, now BlackBerry's not around. Apple's is replacing what BlackBerry used to do, and that's the main reason I use an iPhone now, because I don't like Android phones. There's just too much crap on them, and it's too open, and it's too open to attack.
Well, let's put it this way, Mike. To put this in perspective here, the government used to use Blackberries all the time because of the security. Okay,
Yeah.
The security was perfect. You know what they're using now? iPhones. They're actually
Yeah, that's why we use
Apple.
iPhones.
Huh?
That reminds me, when Obama came into office, he was using, I think it was what, a
BlackBerry.
3G?
No,
he was
it was
using
a
a 3G.
It was a
He
BlackBerry.
wanted to keep using his 3G,
No,
but
it was a
the government
BlackBerry.
made him use a BlackBerry.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was a
yeah,
BlackBerry.
Yeah. No, before he came into office, he was using a 3G iPhone.
But then they wouldn't let him use
Government
it.
made him use a BlackBerry because it wasn't secure enough.
Well, technically,
huge
that particular BlackBerry was more secure than any other BlackBerry ever.
Yeah,
They
right.
actually had to do some different security on that particular BlackBerry, and the reason being because of, I hate to say it, but the nuclear codes.
Yep.
That BlackBerry was probably the most secure device in the world.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody could hack that one. It probably had more layers of security on it than anything that you ever seen before.
That's probably more secure than the NSA. Not that it's saying much.
Well,
Yeah.
true. Well, that's another
we
spy
should
agency. We
have,
won't
I know
talk
we
about
stay
that
away from
spies on us.
politics, but we should have Edward Snowden on next week.
Yeah.
I would love
know.
to talk to him because, to be honest with you, I'm kind of torn between what he did and why he did it. You know, I
No, we
understand
can't
the
go
reason
there.
why.
I love that guy. That guy's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I kind of like him too because he basically told what our government was doing. But anyways, that's the same thing Facebook's doing. They're getting caught with their hands in a cookie jar, and Apple decided to go ahead and give them the good butt whooping they deserved.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
All right.
do you think this is going to turn into something nasty, like Steve Jobs declaring war on Adobe with Flash Player back in the day?
I don't think
Oh,
so.
no.
I think it's going to. Facebook's going to say, okay, we won't do that anymore. We promise. Please give us our certificates back. And Apple's going to say, okay, but we're going to watch you.
But do
And-
you think Apple warned Facebook, gave him a call and said, "Hey, Mark, you're pulling some shit."
I don't think they warned
know,
him. I
you
think
have-
they just.
You have 24 hours to fix this, or did they just show their?
Oh, they
money
flex
to
their
cut it
muscle.
off, you know?
That's
I'm
what I would
wondering
bet.
if someone else tipped off Apple on it,
I wouldn't be surprised.
like
Yeah, I
another
wouldn't be
rival
surprised
company,
either.
maybe Google.
It was Edward Snowden, guys. He tipped off Apple.
Hey, Tim
It's
Cook,
probably
I
a
got some
Facebook
news for
employee.
you.
Okay. Tim is at least on point on privacy. Yeah, I got to agree. Tim Cook on privacy on the iPhone, that's probably one of the better things he's done as far as goes. But I
Wait,
think
we have
he's just-
something to congratulate him about doing right?
Well, I think he's just carrying on what Steve Jobs started. Steve Jobs was into privacy as well.
It has always been the policy. Tim Cook is just a lot more public about a lot of stuff.
Exactly. Steve
You
Jobs
know.
wasn't as public about the privacy issues and stuff as Tim Cook. Tim Cook likes to tout that we have the end-to-end encryption, that we don't give stuff to the FBI, we don't have back doors built in, blah blah blah. You never heard Steve Jobs talk about all that stuff.
Right.
Steve
Well,
Jobs
he's kind of tooting his own horn in that respect. I think that's more of a publicity thing than. But I mean, he does have good points. I mean, it's a good selling point for a lot of their products.
Yeah.
Well,
Which is
yeah.
probably law enforcement are all using iPhones. Most of your government workers are all using iPhones. All your criminals, they're all using iPhones.
My favorite iPhone security feature is when you drop it and it breaks.
Well, that's
That
why you
is a
get a
feature.
case. See,
Yeah.
OtterBox works good.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I want
Tech
to
21.
make sure that the cops stay out of my phone, when I know a raid is coming, I just shave real quick and everybody's locked out.
Well, yeah, you locked yours out today, didn't you? Did you
What?
lock yours out for a while today, Jay?
Yeah, I did.
I bet you missed that Touch ID, don't you?
I really do. Yeah, I tried to log into an app and I was outside. It was like -10. So I got a scarf up to here, I got a hat up to here, and I'm like,
Excuses,
like a ninja.
excuses.
So I'm like, okay, so it doesn't work. So I take all the stuff off, and it still didn't work. So I'm like, okay, let me quit the app, go back in. I'm
Probably just
standing
after your face
outside,
was
no
froze.
hat, no nothing. I'm freezing my hair off, kind of, you know. And it still wouldn't scan. And then
Yeah.
I reached the maximum. It said, you've exceeded the amount of Face ID scans you could do, and it just locked me out. Like, what?
Hey, at least yours wasn't set like mine, where it erases your phone.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to answer Todd's question here. He goes, Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg, nerd versus nerd. I'm sorry, but Tim Cook is not a nerd.
No,
He doesn't even know
No,
what
he's a
Face
business
ID
guy.
is. He has to look it up.
he's strictly a business guy.
He's a business guy. He basically was into what? Shipping stuff from one point to another, you know. Damn it.
Logistics guy.
Logistics. That's what I was
Logistics,
looking for.
Yeah, you
Pre-
should
it's
look
pretty
up,
nerdy,
I
though.
did a lot of research for the Xserve before I started doing my videos, and I came across the introduction of the Xserve, and Tim Cook is on stage talking about it. And,
Oh,
what
yeah.
a snooze
He just
fest.
looks
What
like a
snooze
dork.
fest. He
Yeah.
just memorized the spreadsheets, and that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, terrible.
Well, that's why you never see him talk about the new products and stuff, because he can't. He doesn't know jack about them.
I actually like that they do switch it up a bit and have different people presenting, because it used to be it was like a Steve and Phil show, and it was like pretty. I mean, yeah, both of them could sell anything, but it's I don't know. I kind of enjoy. I know
The plus
it's
side to
and I know
Steve
this
is he
is,
can sell ice cubes to Eskimos. So
yeah.
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 you know,
This is a little off topic, but I think that what's his name, Greg Federicki, should become the face of Apple. That dude is awesome. He has some of the charisma that Steve
Yes,
has.
I agree.
You
He
know?
has more personality than Tim Cook.
Yeah, he's a lot
Yeah,
of fun and he's
absolutely.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Eric actually asked a question here. Jay, since you have the X, you might want to answer that. He goes, if you're with the police and they have your phone and ask for your password and you refuse, they can just put the phone up to your face. Does this worry anyone?
Yes.
Close your eyes, right?
It does.
Close your eyes.
Well,
Actually,
actually,
there are different laws that have, or not laws, but different verdicts that have been in the recent past where they cannot force your
They can't
4 or
force you
6
to do
digit
it.
pin out of
They
you,
may do it
right?
anyway, but they're not
They
supposed to.
can force you to use your thumbprint or your Face ID, but
Oh.
the code is in your head. That's self-incrimination and all that stuff. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But your
Yeah,
thumb
that-
on your face is like handing over the keys to your house. You don't have a choice.
Does it still have the where if you click it 5 times, it locks it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
click the power button 5 times?
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
there was an article that just came out like a week ago that
Test
the,
that.
that the police can't force you to use your fingerprint to unlock your
Whoa.
phone.
Stop calling. Stop calling.
There have been
It was
Call
going to do an
911.
emergency call.
Yeah.
there have been verdicts though that it is allowed.
Yeah, I think it's a probably a government by government, state by state type of issue thing.
see now
Yeah.
in my case, I would just use.
scheme.
I just use the wrong finger 10 times and it bricks my phone. I'm good.
Yeah.
That's,
I just,
I'm not saying I don't have anything illegal on my phone. I have no
yeah,
reason,
sure you
know,
don't.
phone. But I don't exactly want anybody going through my phone either, because there's a lot of information in there that has no concern to anybody. I mean, there's phone numbers in there that are private. There's messages in there that don't concern anybody. There's questionable pictures from my wife.
I say let them look at my wang, man. Check it out, guys.
That's just So I mean, if somebody were to get my phone, they wouldn't be able to do anything with it unless they cut one of my fingers off. I'm not going to tell you which finger to cut off.
No, you have to have a pulse. That's
Yeah.
how it works.
Not
I do
true,
the same.
actually. Not true, because someone actually proved that theory where they could take a fingerprint off of a picture and make a fingerprint that actually works.
Was that with the
Yeah,
latest
really?
Touch ID?
I'm not sure if it's with the
Well,
latest,
it's with
but
the
Yeah, that was
first
with the
one. I don't know
iPhone
if the
5.
latest
Yeah.
was.
Yeah,
That's
I remember that story a while back, but I think the new one's like it has to feel the electricity like in your finger.
Well, that's
Huh.
the theory, but that
Capacitive,
doesn't mean that's.
Exactly. I'm sure there's a way.
And I'm the same way. I got nothing to hide from a legal perspective, but
Yeah.
but I am all about my privacy. Even if my phone is just fresh out of the box, I will still do everything I can to prevent the TSA or whoever from getting in there.
Yep.
Just because I'm a prick.
Well, they might not be able to get in there, but they will get in you. That's for sure.
Ooh. All right, moving along.
All right. I think we've kind of
Yeah,
veered
my
off our
Rocky.
subject a little bit here
A little
about
bit.
Facebook, but we're getting close
Guys,
on
we're
time
on
here,
another
so
planet.
let's go ahead and move on to our next our highlight here, and I'm going to bring. Let's see. Hold on. Give me a second here. I'm going to bring Jack in here, and he's
What
going
up?
to talk about something special here.
Well,
You
first
can
off,
let him have the
Jack,
rest of the show.
before we do that, we always introduce new people. We want to have a quick introduction of you, like what you collect and stuff, so we get
Yeah.
a general idea
Why are you
your Apple
here?
stuff.
Why am I
Exactly.
here?
Why are you here?
What makes you qualified to speak with us?
Oh,
Well,
Believe me, the credentials list is very small.
um, I've been meaning to ask you guys. Do you like websites?
Is that a trick question?
yes.
No, man. I
Well,
just
let's
what
see
I was
here. What
thinking.
kind of website are we talking about?
I prefer Flash, but
all right.
As long as it's not Flash for Rocky.
Jay likes porn, so I mean,
I like websites.
Okay.
off to a great start, man.
I'll bite. I love websites.
Yeah.
Me too, man. Me too. Big fan.
So the floor is yours, Jack.
So,
We go by.
so I got into computers when I was a kid. I've been just collecting vintage computers. I started with I got started with like a small big box PC game collection, and then you got to get the computers to run that stuff. And my collection's ballooned pretty big at this point. I think Apple products I own. I have a Mac SE, a Color Classic, 3 different 3G iMacs. I have a Performa 638 CD. I have 2 Apple 2Cs. What else do I have? Apple. Yeah, stuff like that. And then, of course, what I just got yesterday, which is I posted up in the Apple II enthusiast group, and I was really, really excited to find this thing. And
Yeah. I met
That's-
Jack literally yesterday because of this post, and I'm like, this has to be on this video today.
yeah, it was something else, man. I'm always looking. I'm always on the hunt for just the next cool vintage thing that's on. In my area. I live in Phoenix. It was a freezing 74 degrees
Oh,
today.
you suck, 'cause
Ooh.
that's only about 2.5 hours from me.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I'm down in Sierra Vista.
Oh, are you in Sierra Vista? Cool, dude. Yeah. So I this popped up on OfferUp. It was up for 22 minutes when I put a offer on it. The ad just said, here, I'm going to kick it up here. One of Apple's first computers, which isn't true, but
Well,
it
it
did.
sort of is.
Yeah, I mean,
It was one of the first.
yeah. So it and she had it up for $30.
Ooh,
And I had a panic attack, right? Like I was like I told my boss, I'm like, hey man, this thing's up. I'm gonna take a sick day, man. Have a nice day. And she didn't get back to me for hours.
Oh,
right.
no.
And I was stressing out because I'm like, the longer this goes, the more messages she's gonna get, the more she's gonna hit eBay, the worse this is gonna get for me. But she hits me back and she's like, hey, I made a typo when I put it up. I wanted 300.
Oh.
So I was like, cool. Is 250 cool? And so yeah, I'm actually in front of it right now. I'll flip my camera around
Well, I was
here.
going to show the picture here. I've got.
Oh
a
yeah,
picture
show
ready
it.
ready to
Show it.
show.
Kick it up. That's way better.
There we go. It's up and running.
Yeah, man. So this was the find. It's an Apple Lisa. I think it's the 2.5 with the profile.
Nice.
We kicked it up in the group yesterday. The profile turns on. We're having a hard time getting the computer to actually display, but it powers on. The monitor comes on. So over the next couple weeks we'll get it up and running. But the keyboard feels really good. Mouse feels really good. I mean, it's yellow as urine. So we'll have to retrobrite this or something. But
nothing that can't be fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you try
Fits
the
right in
video
with the
output
pink
on
case
it?
there.
What was that?
Did you try the video output on it? Curious.
I haven't yet. Like last night, I got home. I hopped on the groups. I was online for a couple hours. It was like 11 o'clock at night by that point, and then I was at work all day today, and I've been on with you guys.
It was 1 o'clock at night by the time I was watching your videos. So
I was dragging a TV there, getting an RCA cable, jabbing in it. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, let me see if I can flip this around for you guys real quick. Can I flip the?
No, I'm not sure if you can.
Take a
in
screenshot.
Skype?
Oh, there.
Okay.
That popped up on the screen. That's interesting.
What just popped up?
Yeah,
You took
I've
a
got the pictures. I
screenshot
got
of
the pictures up
picture there.
on there.
Yeah, I could do a screenshot. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. But yeah, this is her. I'm sitting in front of it right now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah, it's really nice.
Somebody was asking me about the keys. They feel really good, man.
So that's the later version because of the drive, right?
Yeah.
'Cause it's
Correct.
not the
Well,
Twiggy drive.
it's
So
the
2/2.5.
It's the revised version.
Yeah.
Apple
Yeah, it's the 2.
Apple actually didn't really recall them, but they offered the 3.5-inch drive to replace the Twiggy drives as a very low cost upgrade because of reliability issues. Finding if it was
they didn't want to
Lisa,
continue supporting them.
yeah, if it was a Lisa with a Twiggy drive, he'd be like God right now.
Oh wow, you got.
Oh, yeah,
software too.
60
Nice.
grand.
Yeah. So check it out. So over here is
Wow,
the software that came with it.
nice.
Yeah. So it's got this general accounting it definitely says Lisa 2.
Man.
And
So why are
remember,
you imaging
guys,
those discs?
Yeah. Right.
this system for $250, even in its current state, it's probably still worth at least $800.
Oh, the hard drive alone is worth $500.
Really?
Well, probably $250.
Probably. Yeah,
Let me sell mine. Hold on. Be right back.
Hold on.
A working profile drive? A 10-bank profile drive in 1982 was $2,500.
Listen to Mike. He knows.
I mean, those things were, oh my God, any hard drive back then was ridiculous. But of course, I mean, you're talking about a Lisa, which is a $10,000 computer to begin
That's a
with.
great find, man. In either condition. Yeah.
You know,
Well, even the hard drive. I mean, it doesn't look that much yellowed. I mean, not as bad as the
Yeah.
Lisa.
Yeah. That one's not too
Yeah,
bad.
if you smoke a pack a day, you can even that out.
So
That is,
leave
yeah.
it in the sunlight, too.
So the story is I guess the people I got it off of, it was the dude's dad. It was in his den forever, and it just was sitting on a desk, and they hadn't turned it on in like a couple decades. So the fact that it powered on and didn't explode last night was big
that's
big
plus.
victory. That was a big victory. So
Sat
But
in
yeah.
your den. Talk about a conversation piece.
And the
Right?
battery didn't even leak that bad. It was just a little tiny leak. So the board's perfect on it.
the board looks good.
Those
All the
actually
boards-
had a
still
battery
work.
on them?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, they had a real-time clock in them. That was one of the
Wow.
in 19. I mean, that was here. What 1982, 83.
82.
That's pretty
That
fun.
was
Here's
one
the
of the.
picture
That was
one,
actually one of the
copyright
most.
82.
That was one of the most advanced personal computers you could buy, and of course, the price reflected that. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing came with a meg of memory for crying out loud.
Yeah.
A meg of memory.
Wow.
DOS
2 of the cards
computers-
are just memory. Yeah.
Yeah, there's 1 meg on each card. So, I mean, they're huge. They're like 16 feet by 12 feet. But, I mean, that's, that just shows you how far technology is going. That's what justified the humongous price tag on them.
Well,
When
plus,
most
you got to
PCs were
remember
still coming
too
with-
that I guess the graphical user interface also needed more memory than a DOS computer at the time did.
Oh, yeah.
You mean the GUI they stole from Xerox?
Yeah.
And
Wait
then,
a minute,
hey,
Mike,
so
did you say 16 by 12 feet?
Yes.
yeah,
The
that's
thing's
what it feels
huge.
like.
I think the boards are like 14 by 8 or something in that thing.
Inches.
Yes, inches. But they're still huge.
Yeah, they're big.
So here, I'll do this for you guys, just because we were goofing with this last night. Let's pop it open, show you guys what it looks like inside.
Let me,
Just in case anybody's
Yeah,
ever seen.
full screen them, Greg.
That's
Yeah, I was
what I'm
going to
getting ready
say,
to
you
do.
might want to blow it up.
Yeah.
If there's your batteries, Rocky.
Mm,
It's just 4
Oh, that's
AA
cool.
batteries, really.
That's really
Yeah.
awesome, though.
They still need cut out, though.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I got to cut them out. I'm gonna do that this weekend. I'm traveling to Nashville next week, so hopefully I can get it done this weekend. So
Awesome.
here's
It
the.
looks really clean inside.
Oh,
It's really
Yeah.
clean.
inside.
It's not
Mhm.
super dusty. Everything looks good.
It's not.
those
corroded.
they didn't have a fan in those, did they?
No,
No.
super quiet.
Remember, Steve Jobs didn't believe in fans.
Yeah,
Yeah, just think of
Yeah.
the Apple III.
exactly. That's what I was just getting ready to say, Greg. I said the Apple III is evidence of that, right, Steve?
Well, even the first Macintosh didn't have fans.
The first 2 Macs didn't have fans.
Exactly.
Jack, your camera keeps tilting downwards.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a good shot, but I got a little bit of a delay.
Ah.
Let's see.
That thing is so clean.
Yeah.
It is. He was taking it apart last night, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the cage just comes right out, and here, I'm pulling it out for you guys. And yeah, man, I what I thought was really ingenious was just how easy
is
the cage
cool.
pops out, and then these cards just they have these little
It's very modular. Now, the-
releases up top.
The board that he's pulling out now is the I/O board.
Right.
Yeah, that's
The next,
basically the logic board.
Is that
of
thing
today.
No,
loaded
that-
with jumper
that's
wires
not the
from
logic
factory?
board.
Wow.
That controls everything but the processor.
Right.
That controls your serial port, your parallel port, your profile, your video.
Yes,
what
Jay,
I'm
there's a
seeing,
bunch of Bode wires on there.
Yeah, is that from the factory?
Yes.
Yeah, that's from the
Yeah,
factory.
They were quite known for having updates. So
Yeah,
I think even the LCs and LC3s had jump wires on some of them.
Yeah, but this
Remember,
has
Jay,
a lot.
the reason why there's not many Apple Ones out there anymore is because Apple offered the original owners of the Ones upgrades to 2s just so they didn't have to support them anymore, and they tossed the Ones.
Ugh.
So
Well,
they
remember, there was
continually
only-
trying to update their systems so they didn't have to support the older ones.
Well, there was only,
That-
200 sold of the Apple ones, right? If I
Yeah.
remember right.
something like that, yeah.
Something like that.
So yeah, man, that's that.
That's
And then
awesome,
if you look at we'll look at the battery corrosion here. It's really not that bad.
No, that's not.
For the age of the machine, no, it's not. I've seen much worse.
Yeah,
It's not in focus, but yeah, it's
It's not focusing in.
no.
I think
Yeah.
Steve can attest to that on his Performer he took apart.
Yeah, I was just about to say I shared with the group a little earlier Performa 430, which is basically an LC2 but released in sometime in mid 1993, and the battery just exploded and destroyed like the entire board. So
Yeah.
you are very lucky, sir.
Yeah, and then
Well,
so
the other thing that might help, that probably helped him with this, is the fact that those are NiCad batteries. They're actually.
we're going back to the battery
Yeah,
conversation.
They're actually NiCad.
There you go.
So, me not knowing anything about Lisas and anything pre-99, pretty much, what can you do with a Lisa? Can you do some cool upgrades, or?
No.
really.
They're pretty much.
What
it.
you could do is you can post about it on a Facebook group and wind up on a podcast.
Yeah, basically.
Or you can just
That's
piss everyone
about all
off
you
because
can
you
do
have
with
one
them.
and they don't.
They're just cool to have, basically.
They're basically
Jeff,
a conversation piece.
That board
Yeah.
that you're looking at right now, Jay, that's 1 meg of memory.
Nice.
That whole board, that is 1 meg of memory.
Can you imagine
Yeah,
how
dude.
big the
And you
iPhone
can
was
see
Boy,
when it came out
the
back
60,
then?
the CPU right up in the top.
Yeah,
right there,
you
that
can see this
rectangle.
on the CPU board. You can see the Motorola 68000, and that one only runs at 5 megahertz, not the 8 megahertz that the Macintosh used.
Wow.
Yeah, they
Right.
had
Wow.
to gimp it somewhere. They always
That's
had
really
to
cool.
That was the fastest processor Motorola had at the time. They didn't have an 8 megahertz processor until a year later.
Yeah.
What was the original selling price of the Lisa?
$10,000.
Woo.
Yeah.
It was
Now,
marketed
that's a
to
luxury car.
marketed to businesses, not
That
really.
was actually the
Definitely.
original Lisa with 1 meg of memory, no hard drive, and the Twiggy drive, the dual Twiggy drives.
Yeah.
So now, as time went on, they got a little cheaper. But I think, I think the cheapest they ever came down to was about $6,000.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
now, there is a dual Twiggy on eBay going for 65 grand, and I have a feeling the seller will eventually get that for it.
Oh, yeah.
It might take a while,
Probably.
but yeah, probably would. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt
Yeah,
it.
but if you waited a year, you made 65 grand that year.
Yeah.
Oh, geez,
But
no kidding.
That's more than I
even
make
at
in a
current
year.
Stage, what the original owner of this barely ran it or ran it in a clean room because this thing is
Yeah.
pristine.
Oh, it's
Yeah, I
real
mean,
clean
I-
on the inside.
I literally did not clean this thing out. Like, I didn't.
It probably sat with a cover on it most of its life.
Yeah, what
That's
you
awesome,
guys
man.
saw,
Good find.
what you guys
Mhm.
saw last night on the stream that I did was me taking it out of my car and hopping on stream.
Well,
That,
you also got to remember too, being that it doesn't have fans, it didn't suck in anything to get inside
Exactly.
the computer.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
but
true,
they
too.
obviously didn't live out in the country where I do, because
No.
fans or not, you get shit everywhere.
That's true.
Okay, just for some technical information, the original Lisa actually came out in 1983. So, and it sold for $99.95. So the model that he has is a Lisa 2,
yes, sir.
and it actually came out in 1984 and sold for anywhere between $3,400 and $5,400. So
Either way, that's a lot of money for that time period.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the thing I thought was interesting on this was all of the copyright dates on the boards are 82, so that's kind of neat.
Oh, that
well,
is awesome.
the Lisa 2 was just the only difference between the Lisa and the Lisa 2 was the fact that they changed the Twiggy drives out for the 400K Sony drive because it was way more reliable, even though it stored half the information. And they also added the ability to install an internal hard drive, although very, very few of them actually had it. The profile was a much more, I don't know why, but the profile was a much more common option, although the thing is ridiculously slow. I mean, it was
Yeah.
fast. It was fast by the standards of the time, but I mean, it's a parallel drive. It operates at what 600K a second, I think. I mean,
Ooh,
it's
geez.
horribly slow, and it takes like 3 minutes just to turn it on.
It does. It takes a while to turn on.
Yeah, it takes 3 or 4 minutes just to spin up and ready. So
And mine sounds like a jet engine, which is amazing.
oh, they all sound like yeah. I
You
think
know
they
what'll be
use-
really cool? Get that
Quick.
sucker running, and then sit there and do some of the old basic programming on it.
I have Pascal for it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I want to
Hey,
see
Yeah,
one
one
guys,
of
of
the-
the internet.
quick thing about Skype. I just got a text from AT&T that I have used 85% of my data plan, even though I switched from LTE to Wi-Fi during the call. Skype just keeps going on LTE. Apparently, I had to turn my cell connection off.
Oh my
This
God.
sucks.
Wow.
Pretty
Good
much.
lord.
If you have any kind of data plan, make sure your cellular connection is off.
Well,
Oh,
I am
crap,
on.
I didn't know that. I'm
Yeah.
going to do that
I'm on-
now. Thank you for the heads up.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
got
guys,
that
so-
T-Mobile Unlimited plan.
That's a neat thing there. beat me to it because, like I said, I'm only 2.5 hours from you. So if I'd have seen that, I probably would have jumped on it too. But
Yeah, it was out. It was out in Apache Junction.
Yeah.
If that helps.
yeah, you got lucky. All right, guys,
Cool,
we're going to
guys.
move on here. Mike, you're up next. Classic Corner here.
I was going to say, I thought we had enough classic computers for the night.
No.
Nah.
We get
Let's
this.
go on to your topic, man.
Yep.
All right, fine, if I have to. I'd much rather talk about the Lisa, to be honest with you. So besides the Lisa being the first compact all-in-one computer, there's one notable machine that is everybody's favorite and is also one of the worst computers nowadays to collect. Who wants to take a guess what it is, Steve?
Oh, I know, but I'm not going to spoil it.
Because you have one that doesn't work.
It works. It works. It
Oh,
works.
no, I thought it didn't. I'm sorry.
I had one that didn't work. I got rid of stupidly, but
Oh, okay. Yes, that was stupid. But anyway, so the most powerful compact Mac, and now when I say compact Mac, I'm talking about the black and white little babies, not the LCs and all those, was the SE30, which is everybody's favorite computer. So, powered by its good old 68030 processor. Also, one of the only classic Mac, the only compact Mac. Oh my God, I'm tired. I'm sorry. That can support 128 megs of memory. Now, what on earth can you use 128 megs of memory in a Mac that has a 9-inch black and white screen?
oh, we could find some nice reasons.
Yeah,
I figured
I'm
that.
sure you guys could.
So, not only
Heck
was
yeah.
it the most expandable memory-wise, it was also the most expensive, starting at $6,500 in 1989. Yeah, 1989. It came out January 1989. So, it is officially 30 years old. This month, actually. Happy birthday. Yay!
Yay!
So,
It's freaking awesome.
unfortunately, nowadays, this thing is the bane of everyone's existence. These are really, really bad machines. They're particularly plagued with major battery leakage and capacitor problems. And it seems to be more so than any other classic compact Mac,
Do you think
which is
that
unfortunate.
the SE model is more prone to that than the standard? The SE30 model is more prone than the standard SE, or just
Oh,
you're talking about the SE in general?
The SE30 is the worst. And from what I've seen, a lot of people who are at the point now of trying to restore them are only succeeding about 60% of the time. Yeah, they're getting pretty rough. So anybody in the viewing audience, if you have an SE30 and it's still working, good for you. Make sure you get that thing taken care of like yesterday, and get them damn batteries out of there. Oh my lord! So, but
Don't they make like mods to be able to use the regular 2032 batteries in those, or am I wrong? about that?
with a little bit of soldering work, yeah, you can do that. I mean, I would recommend doing that with any machine, but the SE30 is not really. It really wasn't a technological breakthrough or anything. It's really just a 2X in a small compact case. They didn't really have any particular market for it or any specific aim for it. It was just, oh well, hey, we can do it. Why don't we do it? There's 68040 upgrades, and I've heard a rumor of somebody squeezing a Power PC in one. I don't know if I would ever want to try that.
What is
But
that?
they-
I don't
SE30
wanna try
suicide?
that.
No, it's more like SC30 Fire. Yeah, it would be like a J experiment, to be honest with you.
That'd be a great experience.
Yeah, the case wasn't exactly the most airflow dynamic thing in the world. Even with the 60, and I think that's one of the reasons they never used a much more powerful 68030 in them, because the airflow is just horrible in them. And they were kind of known for melting down on their own without help. So, but yeah, if you have an SE30, hey, if you have an SE30, I really want to meet you because I want to be your friend. I lost my SE30 in my divorce. I'm kind of hoping to get it back someday. Although mine's not a true SE30. Mine's actually an SE upgraded to an SE30. So
Nice.
What
Real-
was the difference between the 30 and just the normal one?
the 68030.
Too.
It's an 8
Yeah.
megahertz upgrade, right?
Well, the original SE was a 68,000 processor at 8 megahertz.
Yeah.
The SE30 was a 68030 at 16 megahertz. It was a hell of a difference. But one of the biggest selling points, besides the extra memory, was the fact that the SE30 came standard with a super drive. Yeah, it's right there. That's an SE right there.
That's an SC, yeah.
And the hard drive was standard instead of optional like it was on the SE, and of course the upgraded processor and the extra memory. Other than that, there really wasn't a lot of different. The picture tube is identical to an SE. The analog board is identical to an SE. The case is nearly identical with the exception of the front panel.
Yep.
Well,
But you
I'm
can't
looking
discredit
at
the fact that those things were revolutionary.
That's
I'm
the
looking
whole
at the
trail
spec
right
sheet
there.
that's currently up on the stream, and when it comes to the benchmarking, that thing was pretty damn fast compared to the other ones.
It was. It was a very quick machine, for its time, and especially owing to its form factor. I mean, the thing is tiny.
Nobody had anything smaller than that. I mean, what are you talking? Those IBM portables? Those things were 3 times the size of that, and they were supposedly portable.
Yeah. Well, there's no such thing as an IBM portable. Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to break your back and dislocate a shoulder. Believe me, I carried an IBM portable. Even the Macintosh. Even the Macintosh portable wasn't that portable. So, I like your color classic, by the way.
Oh, thanks. So that's got the upgrade in it.
Oh yeah, good.
Well, see, I used to
So-
own an SE FDHD before, so
And he stupidly got rid of it.
no, I got something better than what I wanted.
Oh, you want to talk about stupidly got rid of? I had a Macintosh SE. I don't remember the model, and I had a Mac Plus. Both of them had like checkerboard patterns or like weird startup patterns. I had no idea. This is maybe 15 years ago. I gave them away for like $5 each. Yeah, it's stupid me.
It's amazing the things that we gave away or sold
Yep.
10 years
Yep.
ago.
Kick
We
yourself.
all are kicking ourselves in the nuts to get back now.
Oh, I know that's right. I want my
So-
LC3 Plus and my 6400 200 EEB back.
Well, I didn't get my 8550 back, even though I never really lost it. It just kind of fell apart. But I am rebuilding it into my 9500. So
There you go.
as soon as the weather breaks and it actually gets maybe slightly above freezing, I might work on that again. So
So, Greg, one last thing tonight before we call it a night. One of the highlights we had for you, I don't have a overlay for it because Jay didn't make one, but it's in the notes.
I didn't put it in the notes, so someone like Jay probably put them in the notes.
You want to talk about your keyboard swap and where that video is located at?
Well, we'll
Oh,
put.
yeah, I
you
forgot
that
about
link.
that.
Say what now, Jay?
That link was in the folder. It's right there.
I have it right here up on the screen, so
Yeah, put the link somewhere. Yeah, we'll put it down in the description too. Someone can put it in the chat. But basically, if you guys don't remember, Colin Mister, aka DOSDude1, made my world's fastest late 2008 unibody with the CPU upgrade and a whole lot of other stuff. And I decided to try to make it look more like a MacBook Pro by swapping in a 2011/2012 MacBook Pro keyboard into it and the backlight. And I did a whole video on it where I literally just swapped the keyboard in. It was a challenge, and that's where I found out that even though the keyboards are virtually identical, they're not. Plus, this is also a good upgrade because the key assemblies are actually a little bit more sturdy and won't break as easy. Like when I was trying to pull the keys off the old keyboard to try to get them to fit on this one, I actually broke a lot of the spring hinges, where they're very resilient. The keys aren't going to break. But anyway, I swapped out the keyboards because I wanted the updated keycaps and stuff. And I got the backlight working and all that stuff. It's a very interesting video if you guys want to check that out. Like I said, it's in the chat now, and it will be down in the description at the when we're finished with the live stream. And it works great. It's just the only thing we found out that was wrong is even though the cases are very similar and the keyboards are virtually identical assembly-wise, the left arrow key on the MacBook Pro keyboard is like a few millimeters, not maybe a millimeter longer than the late 2008 MacBook keyboard. So that means the key won't fit.
Just enough to screw you up.
Yeah, so I instead of me having to take the entire thing apart again and filing the hole wider, I decided just to sand down the key and repaint it.
Nice.
It was a ghetto fix. But
Yeah, I'm showing pictures of it on here from your video.
It was a ghetto fix for sure, but it definitely worked. GT's showing the video right now. It worked, and I'm happy with the results. The key is a little oblong shaped on the edge, but unless you're really looking, you'd never notice it.
Oh, you pointed it out, so now everybody's looking.
I really didn't see it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the first upgrade I do on mine, because I really miss my backlit keyboard on my PowerBook.
Well, the only thing you have to do, like I sent you the links to it.
Yeah, I'm not
just to buy the
doing the keyboard. I'm just doing the backlight.
But a lot of people that watch that video want to do the whole swap, and you can as long as you widen that hole.
So
Now,
the whole there.
Here's a question I got for you, Greg. If you want to do it like what Mike is saying, where he just wants to put the backlight in, can you swap out two of the keys there? Because I know you got the keyboard light, on what the F6 and F5.
You don't even have to have the keyboard backlight keys. Of course, they're the same key. It's just the keycaps won't be there. Big whoop. I just wanted them, plus I wanted the updated keys. But basically, the only thing you have to do is peel off the white reflective black cover. You can see it in the video. You peel that off, and then you just literally just stick the new backlight cover on the back of the keyboard assembly and plug it into the board. Not all unibody 2.0s have them. The 2.4s had the header because they came from the factory with it, but not all 2.0 unibodies had the header. Mike's does. He already verified it. So literally the only thing you do is you just tape it in and plug it in and reassemble the thing, and you have a backlight. So.
And that'll also give me an excuse to yank my logic board out and re-goo the processor and GPU as well.
Dust it
Yeah,
out.
don't overclock it. Just repaste it.
Well, I'm going to do that. That's going to be a later this year project for.
Well, Mike, Mike's also considering having Colin swap in a new CPU for his too.
I like my little MacBook. I think it's a great machine. I mean,
they're great.
It is.
I'm streaming on it right now.
I'm quite happy with mine. I mean, it's the most modern Mac I have, and I didn't pay anything for it. It was a Christmas present from my brother, so anything I do to it, I'm still ahead of the game. So cheaper than buying a new one.
Yep.
There you go.
Literally,
Apple will not give us a real Mac Pro in 2019. Quit asking. We'll never get another real Mac Pro ever. Guaranteed. Promise.
It's
Okay,
going to be
Rob?
2 inches
think-
thick with
I
external
think
ports up the
might.
wazoo.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as fun as the old ones.
No.
But yeah, I also blame Mike on me buying this in the first place because I'd been wanting one for a long time. Then he got one for free, and it finally talked me into buying one.
Always blaming other people.
Yeah,
I know.
for that one.
Grudy,
Why
you
do you
just
guys
got.
blame
You have
the guy? Why
a.
do you guys?
You have a addiction, man. It's called Max.
Well,
Yeah.
better than crack.
That's true.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I've broke over 60 Macs so far,
I think our significant others may call it an addiction, yes.
and I mean in count, not I actually broke them.
Now,
Although
before we
I
get
have
on to answering
probably
questions,
about 20 of them.
let's
No, he's
throw out
probably
our new
broken
thing
about
out there.
80.
Hold on.
Hey,
Sorry, but before we
At
get
least
into
you don't
our
set 'em on
questions
fire.
and more into our antics, just want to throw it out there. There's going to be a link down in the description, but we do have a Discord now. It is Mac Yak with a space in between. There will be, of course, a link, and then you can join us. We want to hear your topic ideas. We would love to hear. You can basically almost live discussion with any of us. We may or may not be there.
yep. I also have a Rutke Mods one that we could also link. I never announced it, but it's been out there. I don't have anyone on it because I never actually announced it. So we'll put that link in there too for the heck of it. Why not?
Yeah, and I'm still trying to figure out what Discord is, but if I like it, I might get one too.
Well,
just
if
for
you
the heck of it.
disconnect the cord, I think then you're all set.
Oh, Discord. Yeah.
It's basically like modern day IRC.
Yeah, I skipped IRC completely.
Yeah, me too. But that's kind of what it is. I mean, it's a little more advanced. It's kind of a pain in the butt, if you ask me. But I mean, it has its merits, and the fact that you could voice chat on is kind of cool. And you know,
Well, once you get
It
used
kinda
to it, it's pretty easy to use. Trust me, I use it all the
I
time
agree.
in my racing and stuff. So
it reminds me of a
works good.
cross between a bulletin board message board, like the old days when you'd call a BBS, you'd have the message boards. It reminds me of a cross between that and IRC. So
Yeah, I can see that.
All right,
Yeah, I
guys.
mean,
I,
it's
little
don't,
built on
bit
the
of-
IRC backend.
I don't see too many more questions, but hopefully next week we will be back with FaceTime. Please let it be that way, because
Yeah.
for me switching people around, this is a pain in the butt.
Please,
My
yeah.
God,
Oh,
I'm
you
not
poor
big enough to
baby.
accommodate this.
well, you know,
Yes.
if we do this again, I could actually, we could all take turns hosting on the channel because we
That's
can
true.
actually run this. You know, like I can run this on my computer. You know, and
But
I don't
here's
see
the-
where I
here's
put
the-
here's the
Wirecast
problem.
in the background.
Here's the problem: who has the internet bandwidth to push all this stuff out? Plus, pull
That's
in.
my problem.
Yeah,
That
That's
would
the
be
point.
Jay
Yeah.
and
No,
Greg.
yeah.
that's Greg Thompson.
That's the
Like,
reason why I
it's-
host it, because I have the best bandwidth, and I can do 1080p on here.
Mr. Fiber Optic. Okay.
No, I'm not fiber optic, unfortunately.
I'd be lucky to get the 360 if I could get lucky on a good day.
Jay would have to stop his wired server
Look,
while
you
he's
can even
doing this,
join
so.
us, Rocky.
Never.
Well, we should start a discussion on the Discord of if you think FaceTime will group FaceTime will be back or not. So go there and have that discussion and
Yeah,
place your
after,
bets.
There you go.
we can make that a thing that after the stream, if people want to hang out, we can move it to Discord. We try to keep the stream around 2 hours because, you notice that, well, you can't see it there, but we all have locked doors behind us because there's very angry spouses on the other side, or girlfriends.
Well, some of us have
Family.
spouses. Rocky's probably the only one that doesn't have that issue.
It's true, but I have a child and other
That's
family
true.
members, so
Yeah.
And mine's at work, so I don't have this problem.
Yeah, mine's currently at work, but
Yeah, but hey,
That's-
we can continue this party on Discord. So if you wanna join us there, by all means.
Yep.
So we're gonna say good night, everybody, and
Good night,
hopefully
everyone.
you have
good night,
enjoyed
everybody.
No, it's
tonight's,
done, yeah.
stream. If you like this video, please go ahead and hit that like button or that thumbs up. If you want to, you could comment on the video. It will be available later on to comment on. And also hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon. So
and Jack, stay on the stream.
yes. So for all of us from Mac Yak, we thank you for joining us, and hopefully we see you guys next week.
Have a good
Yeah.
one.
Yep.
See ya,
Thanks,
guys.
Hacking.
Thanks,
Have
guys.
a good one.